Hello, everyone. We'll just give you all a minute as you join in. Take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat, where you are, where you're joining us from, what you do, your name. And then we'll get started in just a moment. I will start by introducing today's session. So today we are really excited to be talking about the fossil-free revolution and be joined by an incredible group of people all on the same mission to try and ban fossil fuel advertising in the EU. So it's a really, really exciting cause that we're working on today, and we're really excited about today's event. So just as a quick intro, because we can watch the video into what Creatives for Climate is. So we recognise at Creatives for Climate that the climate crisis is a communications challenge, and this is something that we've known for some time, and really as a community, that is what we're working towards. So since we've seen it as a communications challenge, we have chosen to accept that challenge. Now, we see ourselves as a global network of creative change agents using our power, platform, and influence to drive forward meaningful climate action. We know that as creatives, we have so much power, and we want to use that in a positive and meaningful way. So our mission ultimately is to arm creatives everywhere with the connections, skills, and opportunities for action that they need to tackle the climate emergency. Again, we have so much power, so much influence, we want to use that in a good way. So why Creatives for Climate? Essentially, we are a community of frontrunners, and we recognise as frontrunners that we all face very similar challenges because we're all in this same industry, we're all doing different things, but ultimately we have very similar challenges. We ask ourselves questions like, where can I learn from? Who can I continue to learn from? What are my blind spots? What is impact? What is greenwashing? And especially as the climate crisis becomes more and more apparent and more urgent, we need to make sure that we're answering these questions, and by coming together as a community, that's how we do that. So we believe that these are the questions that we should continue to ask ourselves as we're shaping the brands, businesses, and campaigns that are driving forward this new purpose economy. And this is really a very exciting time to be part of this movement, and I'm very, very glad that we have such an awesome group of people in the community, as well as on this call today, all committed to that. So we want to ensure that our efforts as mission-driven creatives to green our planet doesn't become greenwashing, because it's really hard, again, to navigate the space for a lot of us, and that's why this community exists as a place for us to learn and connect on these issues. So really what we do as Creatives for Climate, we connect the business and the creative industry and the media and the mainstream audiences to the individuals, the scientists, the climate activist groups, the creatives, and the regenerative solutions. We bring those together to make meaningful climate action solutions like we're going to talk about today. So as I said, today's event is all about the fossil-free revolution. And this, again, is a really exciting opportunity for impact for our community. And we're going to be introducing a creative challenge to you. We're really excited to have a very, very, very awesome group of people here with us today. We've got Gustav and Amina from Greenpeace, who you'll be hearing from. So I'm going to start off by passing over to Amina to kick us off with a bit of an introduction.
No worries, Tyler. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Amina. I'm the lead campaigner for the FFR, Fossil Free Revolution at Greenpeace. The Fossil Free Revolution is a European campaign. So what does that mean? It's not led by the EU office, not at all, but it's actually a campaign that is coordinating advocacy and actions across Europe for the same message. And the message is very clear. We have been having it at Greenpeace for 50 years. So we have been fighting for the fossil fuel against the fossil fuel companies for over half a century. However, what's so different and special about this campaign is that the framework is new. What do we mean by this? So actually, instead of just maybe like seeing the fossil fuel revolution as a consequence of bigger structures, we actually want to challenge that same structure. We really are pushing for system change. So basically what we want to do is really to make sure that the fossil fuel industries loses their power and their influence by challenging the means that they get this power and influence from. So we're all here today because we have the same calling, and this is to stop greenwashing. And actually that's the essence of our campaign. To do so, we actually view this campaign from a very intersectional framework. So what do we mean by this is that we see the causes and consequences. The causes of the fossil fuel industry are something very tangible. Those are the things that we see in the media. Let's just take the past few days with all the heat waves across Europe. We see that the climate crisis is real, it's there, and we cannot hide anymore from it. And then we will look at wars for the past years with the situation in Ukraine as well. And then, of course, for decades, we have had suffering from biodiversity loss. But what the public eye does not see is actually what causes those consequences. When we look at the system, how it's designed that we do not really see how those, sorry, I lost my train of thought, but basically what we are trying to challenge is the things that we do not see. So the toxic narrative, the greenwashing that is not only further pushing the climate crisis in a more volatile situation, but also the structural inequalities, people who are suffering for social injustice, there's a whole structure behind it. And also like the corruption and the collusion with politicians. This collusion is also due to sponsorships, and this is why sponsorship and advertising is something really that we need to tackle. And to do so, because we want to change the system, we have decided that within the fossil free revolution, we decided to create this ECI. So what is an ECI? You may or may not have seen it. It's the European Citizen Initiative that is a petition officially recognized by the EU. And we had actually 1 year to collect 1 million signatures. So our campaign is started in 2020 and is going to last until 2023. But the ECI, we only get 1 year to collect 1 million signatures. Why are we signing this petition? This petition is designed to stop the advertising of the fossil fuel companies. So this advertising is really essential, and I do not need to repeat myself because they are not only normalizing their position, they're continuing to brainwash us. And when it comes to sponsorship, they are not only normalizing their position in society, but it actually allows them to make other new contacts, to meet with CEOs, to meet with world leaders, and to continue expand their business that is really devastating this world. So this ECI, it's very crucial. It's really, for me, it's one of the most beautiful things I worked on, because it really highlights the solidarity, not only across Europe, but within this whole climate industry in general. So when we look at the ECI in practice, we collected 265,000 signatures in 27 European countries. Now that's only a quarter, it's just past over 250,000 that we should get before October. We still have a long road, but I do believe it's still possible, especially with the final push and especially with the help of the entire community. 265,000 may seem, compared with 1 million, as not a lot, but this is already a huge accomplishment, especially for Greenpeace and especially for this issue. And especially in this past year after COVID, after Ukraine, it was really hard to mobilize people to sign this petition, but through different actions and through advocacy, we managed to do it. But yeah, that's why I'm here today. We still are very hopeful. We're still hoping for a lot more push, but we're not alone. We're doing this with a coalition of 30+ organizations. This coalition for me really highlights again the solidarity in the movement, because we're collecting grassroots organizations with bigger organizations, and we are all advocating for the same thing. But again, like I said, this solidarity, this European solidarity, we don't only see it in the ECI, and we don't only see it within Greenpeace offices where we coordinate our advocacy and different beautiful actions, but we also see it with the different countries that are participating. So like I said, it's 27 countries that are participating to the ECI. You may or may not see your country in this list. If you see it, I really highly advise you to continue to push this ECI. It's possible. It's going to be hard, but I truly believe in it. And whatever we are doing is going to be historical, because if we see like the tobacco ban, it happened sooner or later. So it's just a question of time, and it's just a question of, do we want to write history now? We may try our best, and if it's not going to happen now, it might happen in 5 or 10 years. So, but also the solidarity, you can see it in actions. When we are organizing actions for a campaign, we see people all across Europe, volunteers, activists coming together and blocking actions that, through our amazing team of engagement and communication, is broadcasted all over the world, as the following one in Rotterdam.
All right, here it comes. Let's look at Gustav, our hero at Cannes Lions, the Creativity Awards.
I just want to return a lion that I got in 2007. I'm Gustav, I'm a Greenpeace activist, and I'm at the Cannes Lions Advertising Festival. I'm here to give them a little bit of a surprise. I would like to return it, and I'm looking forward to pick it up again when you support a fossil ad ban.
Hi, I'm Medina, and I'm here to denounce the complicity of the creative industry in the climate crisis. They are enabling the fossil fuel company to advertise their climate-wrecking products, to greenwash themselves and to block climate action.
So, Karin, where are we going? To the beach party! Woo!
Activists have climbed the building with a fire truck, and there's actually 2 dogs reconstructing the meme of "this is fine" in a burning room.
This is so cool, I'm so excited.
The fossil fuel industry is the main responsibility for the climate crisis now, and these companies here are promoting them. This has to stop.
If you want to support us, you can go and sign our European Citizen Initiative.
Sign the petition. You can find it on the Greenpeace site.
Join the movement by signing the Ban Fossil Ads European Citizens Initiative.
I think this is an amazing introduction to Gustav. Gustav, how was it to be there and stand on stage and give your award back after being in the advertising industry? And maybe you can give a little introduction of how you got there.
Yeah, thanks, Zoe, and thanks, Amina, for the intro. It's so amazing to be here and see so many people joining this call. I was like thinking a little bit when I saw all these people joining in here and that were gathered here, and I was like, if this would have existed a few years ago, maybe I would have stayed in the advertising industry instead of joining Greenpeace, because this is exactly what I looked for, right? But what I did a few years back is after a career in the advertising business, running my own agencies, also being part by big advertising networks, and also picking up a few awards in Cannes, I realized that change wasn't happening fast enough. And I believe that creativity, innovation, advertising, entrepreneurship is part of the solution, but we need to take a responsible take on all those things. And I think also we need political leadership in combination with all that. And I think that the smartest brains and needs to have more power in the creative industry instead of old money having control over the advertising industry, because I think that is what's really messing it all up and having the status quo. So I joined Greenpeace a few years back after this career, and I had the privilege to work on the fossil free revolution team, and as a part of that, working with the fossil ad ban, which is a really important intervention against a very destructive industry. And I will show you a little bit in the creative brief here why we believe this is such a good intervention and such a good thing to do. And as a part of that, one idea was to go back to Cannes, go up on stage and give back the the award I got for a Volkswagen campaign in 2007. And I'm glad that it went well. I was nervous for 2 months before because it's a little bit like, I'm actually you see in this picture, I'm climbing on the wall, and I'm less nervous climbing these walls with all the equipment like 20 meters up in the air than I am to go on stage and interrupt the chairman of the Cannes Lions. That's weird how human works, right? So anyway, yeah, I should have dressed as the dog. It was actually part of the plan. It was really hard to get the costume inside the Palais, so that's why we didn't do that. Anyways, I'm so glad that you want to join this fight, and I'm here to give you a creative brief that you can work on with all your talent and energy. And the brief is basically very open. I know that when we worked in the advertising business, we asked for really narrow briefs, but that was usually, a narrow brief was usually because we wanted to be effective in our work. When it comes to these more, I think, open issues, that is to solve a real problem that is actually part of your ordinary life, I actually believe that an open brief can be more allowing and good. So we made this creative brief for you all to work on, pretty open. And the context that Amina and Zoe has already mentioned quite a bit about is that we want to mobilize the advertising industry and creatives to contribute to the ECI to get 1 million signatures. We want you to join with all your firepower, all your ideas in a very allowing and open brief to come up with ideas and help us to get more signatures, basically. And we believe that by doing so, we will also get a secondary effect, which is more awareness and more understanding about the issue. So the ask to you all, and I will go more into details on how you and thought starters and all that, but the ask is basically create artwork, messaging, and/or digital memes, and share it on social media, share it to us and to the group here, and openly in social media, and drive signatures to the European Citizen Initiative. And by doing so, you will also be part of a kind of competition, if you like a pitch, where we will pick up the best stuff and then put money behind the best executions and execute that with our power. So we will, buy media if needed. We will maybe even do a banner drop if you have an idea for something like you saw on the Cannes Lions film, for example. So we can go to the next page. Yeah. So the specifications, we'll start with that. Create executions suitable for any of the formats below. Social media, Instagram format, TikTok works as well, Instagram story format. You may or may not want to create an outdoor bus station then. We can get that either through bought media or through ad busting. You can come up with an idea that works for a banner hang from a building or a bridge or similar. And there you can also obviously come with ideas about context. However, it's always a caveat on that, because it's not that we can go to any place or any capital or any country very easily and say, okay, we want to do this, but we will definitely try to. So if you come with an idea, we will look into if possibly maybe we could solve it. But it needs a little bit of scheduling, and it's not that you can just go from one day to the other and scale a building, right? Or if you come up with a full-page newspaper ad that we really, really love, we will look into buying media and publish that in a big newspaper in Europe somewhere. The call to action is to get people to sign the petition, and that is something you do at banfossilfuelads.org. There are a lot of country-specific pages, and so if I go to the link, it will automatically redirect me to a Swedish version, for example. So this is very functional, it works well, it's easy, so you don't need to bother much about that kind of technical logistics. We have a pretty good infrastructure as soon as someone wants to sign a petition. One thing worth mentioning is that an ECI means that a signature goes directly, in most cases, to the European Union. So we're not harvesting data for Greenpeace in this case. It's a very direct from act, and then the data goes to the EU Commission. And then you can submit through the Creatives for Climate Community Hub. Maybe Zoe or someone would like to elaborate a little bit on that.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Zoe Red from Creatives for Climate. And joining the community is really easy. You just go to creativesforclimate.co/join. And there you can access our community platform, the network. So you have a choice. We have a grassroots membership and a business membership, but you can also join the free limited version. And we have in the limited version a special thread dedicated to this call to action. So if you made your work and you distribute it through your socials, let us know what you've made and drop it there so we can amplify it from there.
Cool. So once again, launch your campaign, share your design, artwork, memes, ideas openly in your social media channels. And as Caro was asking, thanks for the great segue, you will get a QR code and a link, and you will generate that through our EuroLeague platform. So we have a EuroLeague platform, we call it that, where anyone that wants to join this campaign can go, simple register, make their own personal link and QR code, and then you can keep track on how many signatures you are getting through your link. And the reason why we want to do this is because it's a little bit of a competition. And if you are one of the best, we will send you merchandise and stuff. That's always nice, right? And we will also obviously make you a part of the bigger competition to get signatures, and the winner in the bigger competition, together with all our volunteers, and so are competing for being a part of a ship tour. So if you are really successful in getting signatures, you might actually join one of our ships on the campaign, which is awesome.
How many signatures do I need to get on the ship, Gustav? I want to join.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how well it's a competition, basically. We can look at the leaderboard right now, if you like, and we can see who is in the lead. Shall we look at the EuroLeague now? And I can show how to register?
Well, let's leave it for a little bit later.
Okay, cool.
We also want to share the inside of the brief.
All right, got it. Then we wait a little bit to show exactly how this is done. So on top of this, we will look at all the creations that is shared through EuroLeague or sent to our platform. And we will share the best ones in the Greenpeace channels and retweet them, etc. Obviously, if you do something great, we will retweet and we will spread it. And then we will also pick out the best and put money behind media buy, as mentioned. Cool. Here are some examples. So as you can see to the left, someone that goes by the handle of Queer Satanic made a meme, and that was shared by Greenpeace, and on the Greenpeace account, which now has 100,000 likes. So we have quite a bit of following, and we also have a few collabs with key influencers that might or might not share what we do as well. So it's a lot of potential already there. So as a part of this creative brief, I would like to give you a little bit more in-depth context to get your brain juices working on this brief. And first of all, I would like to give a little bit of context on why fossil ads are such a huge problem. When we talk about fossil advertising, we are talking about three categories. We're talking about the oil majors, Shell, Aramco, Total, Preem, these oil companies, they're the oil majors. We're talking about the airliners, which are spending an awful lot of money on filling up their planes. So people are taking quite a few of fossil heavy unnecessary trips. And we're talking about the car manufacturers that are making unnecessarily big combustion engine powered SUVs, for example. So that are the three main players. Then obviously you also include a little bit of like other travel that is fossil heavy, etc. But these three are the main targets that we would like to regulate, so that we can reduce the overconsumption and get a faster green transition to sustainable transport system and sustainable systems in general. The problem with oil majors was highlighted even by the IPCC in the latest report. This is how serious the problem is with fossil advertising, that it's even mentioned in the IPCC reports that is dealing with the absolute worst of the worst with climate change, right? And they were writing like this in the latest report. Corporate advertisement and brand building strategies may also attempt to deflect corporate responsibility to individuals or aim to appropriate climate care sentiments in their own brand building. And what they're really talking about here is shifting from systemic shifts that are necessary as we build a better future together as a society, and shift that into individual consumption narratives, which they can steer much easier. And then they can keep the business as usual because they're blaming you as an individual. I mean, this narrative is very, very clear that it is go everywhere, because the first thing they asked me when I went on stage on Cannes was, how did you travel to Cannes? Which is obviously not an important issue to discuss, really. I went with an electric car, by the way, if you wanted. We have the airliners, and they do things like trying to change lifestyles, trying to change culture, so we do more unnecessary traveling. For example, the case to the left here is a campaign awarded in Cannes, where you are supposed to, together with your partner, get a voucher by sharing the same movie together with your phones. Great creativity, love it, but it's a way to appropriate love, right? Because they want to make Valentine's Day into a travel holiday instead of a holiday where you take a dinner in your hometown, for example. And these kind of cultural changes driven by the fossil capital is something we just can't afford in a climate crisis. And then we have the car manufacturers selling unnecessary big SUVs that are really thirsty, and that would have been impossible. Like, why would, without advertising, why would anyone spend an awful lot of extra money on having an unnecessary big car just because it's cool that costs you a fortune? You need a lot of advertising to pull that off, but it's more profitable for the car manufacturers to sell these than to sell smaller, efficient car. And if you go onto agency websites where some of them are showing their cases, you can, for example, see what I saw. This is a screenshot I took from one agency where they showed one of their cases, and they said that the challenge they were working on with all their talent and energy was persuade young drivers not known for buying brand new cars to put their name down for a new 30,000 pound 167 mpn Honda Civic Type R. That's the kind of briefs that we can't work on anymore in a climate crisis. So would a ban really make a difference? Now I showed the problem, now I would like to show the potential. And the potential can be shown by looking at the cigarette ban that we have had quite a few years. That is one of the references we can look at to get some kind of idea on how boundaries for an industry within advertising actually can change the consumption behaviors. This is I plotted out sales of cigarettes on average every day for adults from the beginning of last century, 1900, until now, in the United States and Sweden in this graph. And then I plotted out the most successful advertising campaigns and the bans. And the first thing I plotted out was the famous Torches of Freedom, which was known, it's probably the first PR-driven campaign in human history, where women's liberation was appropriated by cigarette companies, and they made cigarettes to a symbol for female empowerment. So it is the original femvertising you see here, which made sales go up because all of a sudden they got women to smoke, not only men. And then if you go a few decades further ahead, you get to a new media landscape and the Marlboro Man, which also made even more sales go up. And then around 1960, the problem with cigarette smoking, especially in the United States, but all in the Western world, was such a huge health problem and such a huge cost for the taxpayers that responsible politicians, the ones that we actually would like to see acting now, back in the days, they actually made, even though the lobbyists were pushing back and they had a lot of resistance, Nixon actually managed to sign the first ban on cigarettes. And it was the Public Health Cigarette Smoking Act. And immediately we saw a drop, and that drop hasn't stopped since. More and more bans and further restrictions were introduced. In Sweden, my own home country, we didn't do much until in the 1980s. And you can see that we did everything at once instead of, as in the US, do it step by step. And you can see on the Swedish consumption, when the tobacco ban comes in, all of a sudden cigarette sales drops immediately. So this is the potential we believe that we can get with fossil ad ban. So this is the background in the brief, and here are a few thought starters and free ideas and examples, just to show you a little bit what we've done already. To the left, you have a full-page ad that has been run in a big newspaper in Denmark, for example. It's a quick translation we did, and it's the idea is basically to show this infamous ad that actually was published in the 60s, where Enco was bragging about melting glaciers. And we are written here that not all fossil ads are shit. If you're honest like this, we might include an exception for you, but the rest have to stop and you have to go. You've seen a little bit of the "This is fine" meme that we brought to life in Cannes. So I don't need to show that and explain that more, but that is an example on how we use existing memes and bring it to life in a new context. And then below is another ad we did. It's a spoof ad, basically showing how airliners are showing themselves being like an eco-friendly airliner, or we have no emissions or net zero emissions in the future, blah, blah, blah. And then after the woman who presenting this is ready, she goes out from the movie set and out with a gas mask into like a totally warm, hot, dirty world, which is the reality. So we played around with messages that has been more humoristic, more memes. We have made the more serious stuff. And this is a very allowing landscape. We are not picky with exactly how. We believe that you can do a lot of things. And then, yeah, if you go back to inspiration thought starters, here's just 4 very quickly quick thought starters that you can start working with when you do like the thinking. And that is pollution from fossil fuels. The PM2.5 particles is already now killing more people than smoking. So even if you would take away the terrible effects of climate change and the global warming that we see so tremendous effects of right now in Europe, you would still be able to justify a ban because it's already killing people with the particles more than smoking even. The advertising industry is probably going to benefit from this. It's going to be a better industry. Like, is there anyone in the advertising industry who is like waking up in the morning is like, damn, if we only had Marlboro in the industry, this industry would have been so much more fun? Obviously not. No one is missing Marlboro because you're working on more fun stuff than cigarettes. Yeah, more green. Good point. Good one. The industry is facing a brain drain because, like, which young person with a lot of talent would really like to spend their time on working for oil majors if they can choose not to? And then the big platforms could also be targeted. We have been pretty focused on talking with the advertising industry defined by the agency networks, the big players. But I mean, imagine Facebook having a ban. That would give a lot of results. So yeah, that's that. So I usually end my briefs and start with like, do it for the fun. You know, make your industry more fun. Get a fossil ad ban. Climate change bonus, if we can avert that.
Thank you so much, Gustav, for this amazing brief and inspiring us to use our power and platform as creatives to make really meaningful climate action work. I'm so inspired to use this cultural hack for this brief. And I'm super curious what is the questions coming from everyone that's attending here. And before we do, shall we collectively just sign the petition now so that at least the 50+ people in this call all sign right here, right now. And this campaign is about to scale as we are moving to the 1 million signatures that is needed before the end of August. And Gustav, is it true? I believe that we are at a quarter now, so we really would need your help and your creative power to scale this to ensure the rest of Europe is signing as well. And then after you've signed, it's also time to share it to your mother, your father, your colleague, your sister, your brother, and everyone in your network. They say if you know the right 6 people in the world, you know the whole globe. So who are those 6 people that you're thinking of right now? And share this link with them. So as of next steps, wait, maybe let's first check the Q&A, because I'm super curious directly on the brief if there are any questions to Gustav, Amina, and the Greenpeace team.
I'm super excited to hear questions too. And I think like as part of what we are inviting people to do at Creators for Climate is to interrogate the brief. So use this time to ask all your questions. I'm going to play devil's advocate and ask, you know, like what's your message to those that like don't feel like signing petitions leads to tangible change, or who feel kind of like apathetic to these kinds of things? Like what's your message and call to action? And then I'd love to hear from others.
So what's the question, like people that feel that it's no use really to sign?
Yeah, like how do you, like people kind of fatigued by signing things. So like,
yeah, exactly. I mean, so first of all, if we get 1 million signatures, the European Commission has to do something about it. They had to try to get some kind of legislation in place. And if you look historically, there has not been any European initiative that has managed to get to 1 million signatures that hasn't caused either real legislation in line with the actual proposal or something similar. It's hard to neglect for European Union, because European Union came up with this idea. It's their own idea that if you collect 1 million signatures, so that it's their idea of democracy. So if they don't do anything, they kind of undermine their own system. So they have to do something, because otherwise they can just scrap the whole idea with the ECI. So 1 million signature will make a change. Otherwise, EU wouldn't work, right? But the other thing, I believe, like, okay, but would then a fossil ad ban make a change? And I think that's why we plotted out on this graph the cigarette ban, because that is actually the only ban that is similar to this. We have bans for, you know, medicine and alcohol, and there are quite a few different regulations in betting, etc., in different countries. But that massive scale of banning is only the cigarettes that has gone historically. So it's the most relevant to look at. Then there are obviously differences between cigarettes and fossils. I mean, they're part of different consumption behaviors, blah, blah, blah. But it is the best we got.
And I'm curious to see what other questions on the brief we have here from the people joining in. I see a question from Tim. Would you like to unmute yourself and ask?
Yes, thank you. I work for the Flanders Audiovisual Fund in Belgium. We are a film funder. And my job is to help and coach productions to think about their impact when they produce and to reduce that impact. But slowly we see also a movement towards storytelling, towards streaming festivals and all the choices within the entire value chain. And it's very comparable to this initiative. But we are also talking to Creative Media, which is one of the biggest European departments on financing from Europe for your visual sector. So somehow there are so many initiatives going on in parallel bubbles, and maybe it makes sense to somehow share or join them. Like there's now United Nations launched initiatives on net zero. They work on storytelling, on production, on all the different levels. So maybe it might be wise to at one point make like a landscape study to see what's existing and how can we share initiatives and be sustainable in the way we organize this battle.
Did you get that question, Gustav?
Yeah, and also I thank you, Tim. I think it makes a lot of sense, but I see it more like a suggestion than a question, really, to gather people in calls like this and facilitate more like a creative community it's an amazing and very important thing. And I believe that that is a starting point for exactly that, sharing articles. Like as you get into this world, you get into the email chains, the meetings, the groups, the community hub, etc. And there we share a lot of knowledge. So maybe that would be a good place to start to share, and then maybe eventually that would lead to a more like structured landscape visualization of all these different initiatives. Maybe something like that. But I mean, feel free to give us more proposals and join in.
We also have a great question here from Mikey on the definition of a fossil fuel ad. Mikey, would you like to introduce and unmute to elaborate on your question?
Sure. Hiya. Yeah. I'm Mikey from Amsterdam. I won't put my camera on because I've got an eye infection, so I look like a toad swallowed half my face. So I won't scare you all. Yeah, it's just, you know, when you talk about tobacco advertising, it's very easy for people to grasp. You know, we want to get rid of, that's a whole industry and we're going to ban it. We understand the implications of why. When you talk about fossil fuel ads, immediately your brain goes to, as you said, Shell and the other big oil companies, and maybe a coal producer, maybe a Gazprom, that kind of thing. It's harder to understand the implications of an industry selling flights or cars. You know, for instance, you know, the Volkswagen ad that you mentioned, I believe they make electric vehicles. So are we talking about banning, which industries are banning it? Just, I guess, elaborating on how do we communicate what a fossil fuel ad is.
Yeah, yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, what you're very much on point, that it's slightly more complicated to define it, even though it's not more complicated in the legal perspective, but in a storytelling perspective, I think you're right. And also the thing is that the oil majors, they need to be blacklisted because they're not part of the solution. They cannot, because they have like 98% fossil extraction. If they have like a wind farm somewhere that they put a little bit money, it's not really something that can change. They need to be blacklisted. Their brands need to go. Whereas, as you're pointing out, the car manufacturers, they might be a part of the solution. If you have a really good car sharing program based on electric vehicles, I mean, that could actually be a part of a sustainable society. So that is a little bit of the problem here, that the fossil ad ban is on a scale for different actors in the system, from blacklisting, very much like Marlboro, to more maximizing the speed of transition for an industry that we need. And that is also the reaction from these players. So the lobby organization, if there's like the American Petroleum Institute, they're obviously fighting aggressively against this idea. Whereas car manufacturers, I met with a Polestar here in Sweden, and they were like, yeah, awesome. Much better for us, you know, because they only make electric cars. So they're like, yeah, awesome. We are all into apps where you car share electric rides and stuff. So a fossil ad ban would help our business most probably. So you have like this landscape here. And if you look at airliners, the focus from our side in a fossil ad ban would be would be lifestyle ads, not necessarily if you Google search for an airliner trip that you really need to do because there are no other alternatives for you to go to a wedding in New York from Europe, then it's probably a good thing if you can have competition there, because otherwise you will pay a lot of money for that trip. But it's a problem if they make you go to New York to buy Christmas presents and make that into a cool behavior that influencers are making into an attractive lifestyle. So we need to design such a fossil ad ban so it maximize a better sustainable system. And just as answering this question took almost a minute, it is a little bit complex. I agree. Still, I think what we need to do is just to go in with our most like best examples and make people interested. And sometimes I just divert to, I don't care what people talk about as long as they talk about a fossil ad ban, because it's a new idea.
Nice one, Gustav. I love that. That's very punchy. A last question. So if you guys have a really burning one, drop it in the chat or let us know later. A question from Richard Harvey. Why is the UK not in bloody Brexit, sadly? So maybe to elaborate, this is not just a petition. The signatures reaching a million means that the European Union has to look at this legislation. So it could actually create policy change. So Gustav, I'm curious, is there anything that all the creatives out of the UK can do?
Yeah, definitely. We need UK to join, and UK can join in several ways. And I will point out two, though, the most important ones. First of all, consumer legislation is in practice harmonized all over the Western world. So when I was down in Brussels working with the consumer agency representatives, Norway had a representative there. Norway is not a part of the EU, but they are still part of the meetings. So influencing the UK on the fossil ad ban is making a lot of sense and will help. So even though you might not technically be able to sign as a UK citizen, the ECI, a campaign for campaigning in the UK will help. And then the second thing is you have an awful lot of European people in the UK spending time in social media that are UK based, right? So, I mean, I heard someone telling me that you can consider London being the 4th or 5th biggest city in Sweden if you go to Swedish population, for example. So, I mean, you can affect a lot of European people in UK media.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gustav, and thanks everyone for your questions. Feel free to continue them in the chat as we kind of let you know what are the next steps from here. So what you can do, number one, is sign the petition and share it around if you've not just done that already. Visit Creators for Climate, the community page. So if you create a creative asset, so your amazing campaign idea, you can drop it in creatorsforclimate.co/join in our community hub, where there's a specific thread on this action to share what you've made, and we will amplify it from there. So how to win this challenge is two ways. You can either have the best design, which will be juried by Gustav, by Samuel, who is also an advisor of Creators for Climate and action coordinator at Greenpeace, and also Melissa Mugabe, who is an advisor at Creators for Climate. So there's an amazing jury who will choose the best work, creative work. That's win number one. Win number two is if you can have the most amount of signatures from your specific link, so from your unique link, then you also win. And if that's enough, you can actually win a boat tour to join one of the Greenpeace actions. So that is how you can join the EuroLink. That link is also in the community and will be shared here in the chat. Then work on your campaign, launch your campaign with the right hashtags so we can track where it's at, and where it's going. With Ban Fossil Fuel Ads Creative Challenge, Ban Fossil Fuel Ads, and Fossil Free Revolution. And then submit before the August 31st. So you have quite some time. Call your friends, have like a brainstorm, and send in that amazing work between now and the end of August. And how to join EuroLeague is to register for signature. Amina, maybe you want to explain a little bit more on this.
I can do it, Amina, if you like.
Yeah, go ahead, Gustav.
So the EuroLeague works like this. Is it okay if I screen share, Zoe?
Yes, for me it's fine.
Yeah.
Let me see if that works though. Can you?
We also have this available on the community hub. So there's the process exactly how to do this available on the community hub. So this isn't your only opportunity to do it. So don't stress if you're not sure what's going on to everyone who's in the room.
Yeah. Thanks, Tyler. So euroleague.fossilfreerevolution.org. That is the URL, which will come in an email as well, but you can see it there and you can go there already now if you want to. And then you have then you can create an account. It's super simple. Name, username, email, country, password, confirm password. One important thing, everybody listen now. Please fill C for C before your username. That would help a lot because then we can keep track a little bit easier. If you would miss it, just contact us or send an email, but it would be really good if you do that because it makes life so much easier for us. And I mean, we're working with a lot of things, so please help us with this thing. You register, and then when you're registered, okay, this was not a very good demo. I thought that I would.
Well, I think we get the point, Gustav.
Yeah, okay, whatever. When you get in here, yeah, okay, here we go. Sorry, I had the wrong username. So you can, you will have this little simple tool where you can share a link. Then you have your personalized link. And you can make that into a QR code in whatever free service of your choice. And then you can check out the leaderboard and the rankings. And here you can see the rankings of people that are joining the EuroLeague. And you can compete with in the big competition as mentioned, but you will also be in a separate category. And that's why we want the C for C. So that is how we keep track on these like two parts of the EuroLeague.
Thank you so much, Gustav. That's a great explanation of how to win the most signatures. So lastly, of course, this is all about greenwashing, especially in the fossil fuel area. And Creatives for Climate has a summer school if you want to dive deeper into how to avoid greenwashing and how to know if you get a brief in as a creative professional, whether this is an amazing sustainability brief or if it's actually greenwashing. Like we as myth builders of society now have that responsibility. So if you like to go even deeper, besides creating work for this amazing creative challenge and radically reskill yourself, Creatives for Climate has that opportunity to join the Greenwash Watch Summer School before Tyler, I think there is a date that they can join in, which is almost here. I'm sure she'll drop it in the chat. And the summer school is beginning on August 1st, so it's almost here, and there's amazing creatives joining in already. It's a facilitated session and a live cohort where we actually co-create with the creatives in the summer school to elaborate on how to avoid greenwashing and how to create truly sustainable projects. And if you're interested to go even deeper in this brief or any other creative call to actions of Creatives for Climate, you're free to join the community. And joining the community means you get access to our collaboration boards. which is about learning, which is about knowledge sharing, and basically to ask the questions that you don't maybe dare to ask at work or with your colleagues. This is a very open, experimental, creative community where you can ask and get your answers. It's a global community with expert knowledge, and obviously we are all here to achieve creative impact. So find also opportunities for more creative call to actions. And lastly, a great quote by our advisor, Alex: we need powerful stories to reimagine society, and we need narratives of regeneration and restoration to be the most powerful in society. So this obviously is a ban, which is super important, but also let's make stories about what a sustainable future or a bright future could look like. So thanks everyone so much for joining. And I'm so excited to hear and see the creative challenges and the creative work that's coming in.
And I just want to respond. There's a few people that are like, I'd love to join the course, but they can't afford it. Like, we've just gone from a self-funded project ourselves. So a lot of us are still volunteering, and we've got our first grant, which is really exciting, but we're quite a small foundation. So for those of you that are already joining that cohort, you're essentially helping us to refine it into something that we will mainstream and make much more accessible. So if you can't join this summer, we will make sure that you can attend later in the year. And joining us is supporting us. So thank you.
So for whoever has to jump off now, thanks so much for joining, and thanks Gustav and Amina at Greenpeace for explaining and working with us on this amazing call to action. For whoever is around, I'm happy to stick around a little bit longer.
Yeah, me too. And I just wanted to say thank you, Zoe, Tyler, Lucy, and everyone who's here. I'm so happy to see this, and it's so cool. You're already part of the movement just by joining here today. You are a part of the movement, and you're on the right side of history. And I believe that we can make the advertising industry and the creative industry the front runners together and make it like really the industry you want to work with because you want to make a better planet, not as it has been, that you need to choose between the climate and the job. We should not have that situation for a creative person with a lot of talent, right? And by being in this call, you're kind of pushing it in the right direction. And if you join in and use your talent and your creativity to do this brief and other stuff, and joining the Greenwashing School, you're really, really making a huge contribution to create a better planet and a better industry. So proud that you're here and so glad that you're here.
Thank you so much, Gustav. Amina, you have any last words as campaign lead of this campaign?
Thank you so much, Zoe, and the entire team for having us. For me personally, when I think about this campaign, it's also about using our privilege and positions. And we have the luxury to fight climate justice in a very creative way. We're shielded. We're doing this out of solidarity with the people that are in the front lines. And I'm just happy to see all those different people from different sides of Europe coming together for the greater good. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for having me, Zoe.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.